Hey everyone, how's it going? MarkZ here with Crumbz and Meteos with the review. We'll be taking a look at Griffin versus G2, Group A match, and we'll start in Champ Select. Start out with a Rakan ban, no surprise.
Yeah, Syndra flex pick for G2, right? They're busting that in the bottom lane.
I don't think it's
It shouldn't be banned.
It's not a flex pick for them.
No, it is.
Oh, I thought you said the Rakan, sorry, you meant the Syndra.
No, the Syndra,
yeah.
could be mid-Rakan.
Caps played that for a little bit.
Everything seems pretty standard. I don't know if we'll see Pantheon at all this Worlds.
You mean because it's going to be banned or because no one actually is going to play?
No, because it's banned.
Yeah.
That shield is too strong.
So, Griffin first pick Renekton. G2 took Elise to take away the Renekton Elise combo. Makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I think the priority of the Kai'Sa and Xayah is just crazy for G2, and it should be for a lot more teams. Those two carries are just nuts. Too much damage and survivability.
Yeah, then the Renekton Talia still can work like the Elise. The Renekton starts off with the stun and you pretty much have the guaranteed flick as long as you time everything right. So it's basically the same thing, just probably a little bit harder because you can't get out as easily as you can on Elise.
Definitely. So, what do you think about the Leona?
I love Leona. I love it. I'm glad you asked because I think especially against Nautilus, it's amazing because Nautilus is not a real tank.
I saw you tweet this.
Yeah, Nautilus is not a tank, right? If he just wants to look for a hook at you, and if you hook Leona, Leona will always turn one-shot you with the team, and you can't actually pick Leona as the Nautilus because her W actually makes her a tank. So I think it's really good into Nautilus specifically, and maybe other matchups that we'll see like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then G2 banned away Xayah and Ezreal, just the safe AD carry options for Griffin because it's probably what you want to pick into Leona.
Lucian. I hate it.
He has a dash. He's pretty safe.
There's other safe.
For the trade-off of not doing any damage.
Triss would be so sick. You have a late game insurance and you don't have to all in so hard in the early game here.
So, I mean, the one thing that's nice about Lucian is he's a pretty strong laner. So if you're trying to dive top over and over, at least Lucian is kind of pressuring on his own, doesn't need help. But I don't know. It hasn't looked good so far at Worlds.
So, if you don't know the results of this game, if you're just looking at Team Comms, who do you favor?
This is such a bait, dude. I know the results of this game.
All right.
You want me to say Griffin?
Well, I don't know. I think it makes sense because when I was looking at this draft, watching it live, G2 is almost all magic damage with this comp.
Yeah.
Against champs that can pretty easily itemize MR, right? You've got like a bruiser mid, bruiser top, tank support. So, in my mind, this game looks like it should be pretty hard for G2.
I don't think there's enough MR you can stack to mitigate Kai'Sa damage.
Not like late game, but enough in the mid game. I think, especially if you get ahead, and Griffin should get ahead. Like most of these lanes are good for them, all things considered. The Leona counterpick in the bot lane might change that a little bit, but you should have playmaking and priority in your top and mid for the most part.
Yeah, it does look to me like Griffin has a pretty solid comp here. You've got a pretty good mix of damage. You have really good kill setup in all the lanes with Italia. Any lane that can set up her W is gonna probably result in kills. So I actually thought Griffin's draft looked a bit better than G2's coming into this game.
So the only reason why I was siding with G2 is because I've been playing a lot against Orange in solo queue, and the champion is pretty good right now with the recent change that was a little bit buffed to him. And sure, you still have to hit that later stage in the game, but I think that you just make it so hard to die as Ornn that you naturally buy so much time for the rest of your team that these divers are going to have a really hard time with how much CC and survivability they have.
All right, so let's get into the game. Okay, so I think the first thing that we were keeping our eye on for this game was a lot of the stuff that happened between the junglers because it felt like Elise and Talia were the catalysts, and especially in their first clear.
Yeah, so something that I think is worth looking at coming into the early game is Renekton's been a super contested pick this World so far. He got first pick this game, he gets first picked a lot. And most of that is just because his laning phase is extremely strong and he has a lot of kill pressure. So I think Griffin does, pretty logical move here where you invade topside with 5 people as long as you're strong enough. And they get down wards to, maybe split the map and just be able to pressure really hard with Renekton. So
I'd like to see them transfer this to mid, because this is a Noriana that's not running cleanse. She's got TP. Irelia Talia, once you get the ball rolling there, it's not as easy as with an Elise, but you can still get the same snowball effect going if you get a kill.
Yeah, the only thing is, when you go for these 2 wards, you know 100% if the Elise has come to try and contest your top dive, but if you go for a play mid on your first clear, you don't have as much knowledge of where the Elise could be coming from. So I can understand spending your first like portion up on the top side of the map to just split the map, and you think your Lucian and Nautilus are going to be fine. Same with your mid.
Yeah, I actually think, given what happened early game, the Ornn pick makes a lot of sense because it's not really something you'd think of Wonder picking. You know, he's normally known for like these carry type champs, but if you're up against Renekton, Talia, you know, if you're picking something that can die in a stun, you're not gonna have a good time. So Ornn's tanky, and he's got, you know, his E to get away. So I thought it made a lot of sense here.
Are we going with Talia or Tali? What were you saying calling it?
Talia?
Talia.
Talia.
It's Talia.
Talia?
I don't know. I say Talia.
Talia?
All right, Talia.
Talia. It's spelled all those ways.
Spelled one of those ways.
I think that people are running Akali into the Renekton Elise combination as well, because you can avoid it through stealth. But the Ornn, you can actually dive it really easily. It's just that Renekton has to chunk him. So if Wonder just stays healthy, he's not in kill threat, whereas an Elise would be able to 100 to 0 you.
I still think you can basically 100 to 0 him if you land everything.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
That's
I
risky,
know,
bro.
man.
It's risky,
You
but
go
if-
for a dive on Ornn, you know, if he buffers his E when Renekton stuns, you knock him up and someone's dying to turret.
yeah. You can also just get the flash stun off before you can get the E sometimes. So this is the big thing, is he actually stole some of his experience there, and so Tarzan can't hit 3 off Crumbz, and he has to leave topside, so they can't make this play, and he's tracked the entire time. So like,
Interesting.
Jankos doesn't have to really care about what's happening topside because it's already been screwed up by Wonder. And
Yeah, we also saw Caps harass Tarzan a little bit
Yeah,
at
as
Raptors
well.
too, so I think that's just really good macro gameplay from G2. Or what do you call it, macro or micro?
Macro.
I think it's
But
weird.
basically, it's both these laners just saying, you know, I'm comfortable taking maybe a small deficit in lane if it stops their, you know, like, incoming play.
You're understanding their strategy and what they're trying to do in the early game with a split map, and you're saying like, okay, well, if we can just slow you down and annoy you, that's great for us.
Because if I'm the Talia and
Nice.
their lanes do that to me, I'm a little tilted because that feels bad.
Yeah.
Especially when they hop over, warrior raptors, harass you while you're doing them.
Yeah, definitely.
You okay there, big guy?
I'm good. Something happened.
And then like all
This
this
is a
time,
waste of time.
yeah, you're getting nothing really done, and I think they still try and brute force it even after this.
Right. It's like the Ornn also has a defense tree. You're not getting past this guy.
I'm not sure if did they know where Elise is at this point?
They knew it was
Yeah.
split, but the fact that they're able to get onto him a little bit, they trade summoners, but they're helping their bot lane stabilize while top is mostly okay.
So I think I remember watching this where she bases, and because they're still wasting their time here, they forget to account for at least being too quick to make it
This
back
is
up here.
this is literally a duo lane up here.
Yeah, like that's not why you picked this. It's not sieging top strat.
See, like, that's not a threat. That does not feel nearly as deadly as at least Renekton.
Yeah, and that's why I think I saw a lot of people praising Jankos for a lot that happened in this game, and he definitely played really well. But I think what the soul laners were able to do to negate the game plan topside was so important. And then-
That
and
Q
then
hitting,
this,
that
yeah.
Q hitting set the whole thing up.
Wow.
And now it's over.
Yeah, so Tarzan spent like his
Literally-
entire first 5 minutes either on the top side of the map or literally in top lane, and then G2 was the one who came out ahead. So I think that's insane. I don't think many other teams at Worlds are going to be able to play into Renekton, Talia, split map. You know, Jankos just says, good luck in esports to Wonder. Caps and Wonder do a really good job delaying Talia's like level 3, so he has to do an extra camp, which gives about an extra wave to prepare for the incoming play. Gives Jankos time to pressure the bot lane. You know, he's going to get an uncontested gank. I think he also ganked mid to pressure it a bit.
Yeah, he went mid
He
too.
went twice and one bottom, so he got 4 ganks off, 1 kill in exchange for getting ahead in CS as well.
And I mean, this is where Jankos deserves a lot of praise, getting the first kill, and then this repeat gank is so brutal. Like, this is the backbreaker.
Yeah, this is pretty much where something that I've learned a lot is when you're ganking top lane, the first gank, it doesn't usually do that much because they have teleport. But if you can get a gank off like that where they don't have TP, and as you saw, there's that huge wave coming in,
Right before 6.
that's kind of BG for Renekton. He loses probably close to a full level in XP. He loses a few hundred gold worth of minions, the other team gets a few hundred gold worth of kill.
Graham,
so.
what's the CS at? Yeah, I mean he's still up 5.
You can't beat
Wonder must have missed a lot.
He was 2v1 for about 5 minutes, so he was down a lot of CS. He's caught up and he's got 2 kills.
But he's fine. He doesn't have to do anything, right?
I mean, he's still up. What is that? 600, 700 gold.
Like they can't come back to that lane because Ornn will beat Renekton now, and now Elise can just go everywhere else on the map. And
Could we open the items to show what items Wonder has now? Okay, so yeah, he's just building a bunch of tanky stats. Got his mana.
Oh, don't mind us winning bot lane now too.
Yeah.
See, right? That's the Leona into Nautilus. Nautilus is a squishy boy.
What was Lehens doing there?
I think they were trying to like get a pick off on the ramp, and they didn't know how many people were there because I don't think they've had a chance to get vision on the bot side since Jankos was down there. They have like that one ward there.
You didn't think that could have been a 1-for-1 if they at least get Jankos? No flash on Elise.
If they landed the hook, yeah, maybe.
It'd be hard. I have to imagine Griffin's just trying to get some kind of vision because when you play against Elise, if you don't have any vision in the jungle, all your lanes have to play pretty terrified because, you know, she's such a threat.
It might even be worse playing terrified because you just get dove and lose more.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, it's one of those, like, I don't think there's a definitive right play you can do. You kind of got to do some guesswork. And he dies trying to get a ward.
I mean, all things considered, Tarzan does make a couple plays throughout the course of this game. He gets this one top. He finds like a pickoff or 2 using his wall, I think.
The one on perks at wolves?
Yeah, the one that bounced him over. We'll get there. That was sick. But it's still like, you're already 1,000 gold down with the better early game team. So, I don't know.
This is why I think a Tristana would have been so much easier. If you're going to go to the top side of the map, you can still double down on that and you have a late game insurance. You're still escaping the Leona, you have mobility, you have shove in your lane, and if you have a Lucian, what happens when your early game plan doesn't work? You're useless. Like, Lucian gets outranged by everybody here.
Do you think Tristana bot would be able to lane effectively though? Because I know a lot of time, the reason you see Tristana played in solo lanes is because her early game laning is not actually very good in the 2v2 lane unless you can just constantly all in, like keep jumping in on them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's hard to play her bot, especially with the last hitting. I've seen, I think it was Splice that had a pretty good Tristana bottom lane that knew how to last hit well, but if you're going to split the map, I still think you can just sack that lane a little bit to have a late game insurance and make sure you can get everything right going for your solo lanes.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen enough of it for me to... I understand that most people don't like it in the duo lane, and it's the same thing that happened when they had Cassio and Tristana for C9. Everyone's like, put the Cassio in Niski's hands and give Sneaky the Tristana. But I still think, from a matchup perspective, I can understand why they did what they did. I just the Lucian, like you're saying though, just feels like it falls off too fast for where the world's meta feels like it is. Because most of the games are like 33 minutes, 32 minutes.
I just don't like putting all my eggs in one aspect of my composition. I want to know that at least if my main plan fucks up or messes up, sorry.
You're okay.
That I have.
You're okay. This is not. This isn't the LCS. This isn't Worlds broadcast. Let it fly, dude. I think the other thing is the whole CV Max situation. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah, they lost their coach. This is a coachless team.
Well, like why is Sword playing? Why are their drafts so like a little, maybe a little weird?
Yeah, I mean, I skimmed some of the drama, and I feel like that's one of those situations where there's so many different perspectives. It's going to be hard to know what really happened, but it does seem like Sword is kind of close.
Buddy.
Yeah, buddy with what was it, Cho?
Yeah.
And CV Max and Cho had some like
beef.
Yeah, some serious beef, which ended up with CV Max getting fired. So I wonder if that's why Sword came back in, and that could definitely like hurt the team dynamic. No doubt.
I mean, this is also kind of off the wall, but I have a feeling some players are going to be distracted from the 10-year anniversary video, and we're not going to be able to focus on their games fully.
You mean us?
No. Like, actually, I think the players are going to be... some players might be distracted. No
did any Worlds players get Legends of Runeterra?
Yeah, access? That's what I'm saying.
Well, they don't have it for this game, so we're okay here.
Yeah. It's looking forward. Maybe week 2. Looking forward, I think G2 is doomed because they really got into that WoW grind when that happened, and now there's Legends of Runeterra.
I heard Wonder got level 60 in Classic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he got it, like, I think even before their finals. Or maybe he's like
62.
Or he's like 50-something.
That's insane.
It only stopped at 60.
Oh.
Crumbz just throwing out fake numbers.
I don't remember a lot from those games, so I just, if a number sticks.
Okay, well, coming back to this game a little bit, let's see Griffin seems to be in a lane swap at this point.
Yeah, and the Ornn you saw using his ult for wave clear. It's just, I think G2 understands really well what their comp's good at. Maybe here you can say Wonder shouldn't have stepped up because he had already basically backed off the turret all the way, and getting back into your lane from that point is super hard to do. But they're already so far ahead on tempo, it's not a big deal, and it does save the turret for a little bit if I remember, because I think the Kai'Sa and Leona get up here.
I mean, the Kai'Sa is also going to be nuts, because I actually don't think they're going to be able to kill her late, even though, yes, Renekton, Irelia could be pretty good diving buddies. Without Nautilus being able to really get an ult on her, she's going to run free. You're not going to be able to catch her, no matter how good your Irelia is. A better Kai'Sa can outplay that. She's invisible.
You need to follow off something else, like the Nautilus ult or hook or something first. It's super hard to just land something on her.
But that's what I'm saying. So imagine if you throw that Nautilus ultimate, how do you get past then the Orianna, the Cocoon, the Ornn that's enhancing everybody else's CC as well?
You flank, Crumbz.
There it is.
You just find a flank.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely can kill her.
And they're supposed to be ahead too, so like you're hoping that they're more walking into you than you're walking into them, where there's like an Orianna ball down, like you're saying, because then that's pretty doomed.
Yeah, I always think with G2 games, it's really interesting because they're a team that they're really good, at all of League of Legends, but they have this kind of just flip or switch that they flip in the mid game where it'll look kind of like this, somewhat even game, and then all of a sudden it's like 5 minutes pass and they're up 10k gold.
Every single game they did was like that. I think the C9 one was like 2k or 3k in their lead at 15, and then like 8.
It's their 5-man plays. Like when they group and make a 5-man, it's so fast.
And I think they're just really smart on how they play the map. The setup for these kind of plays is really worth looking at because, like right here, it looks like G2 had the tempo coming into this play because of that really all-in dive that Griffin went for on Wonder, and now G2 is just using that they pushed in top, they got full vision in the river, and then they're just looking to pressure this mid lane.
Actually, if you know that same play, if Nautilus wasn't there, that's a dive that gets you 3 kills right there and blows the game wide open. So they're looking for stuff.
I mean, they're so coordinated. The fact that you see how Wonder come up from the bot lane and Mickey come at the same time from top. So like they're really aware of what they can do, and sometimes they maybe go for something that they should call off. But like I still think with how the game has changed, with the decrease in vision, where you can't find like super guarantee plays the way you could before when you just like bought 8 pink wards and choked people out. I think like this is how the game is played best, when you're willing to take some risk, and it's one of those like, okay, if this dive doesn't work out, maybe it's like a 1 for 2 or something. But if it does work out, we take 3 turrets and get 5 kills.
Right, and even with that play, I think it's really interesting to me that G2 is really comfortable just giving up that top turret to look for that. Because as you saw, normally what teams want to do is they want to they'll shove in their wave, they'll do a half rotation, they'll get an initial line of vision, and then they'll go back for their wave. They want to keep pushing. But G2 just kind of said, all right, let Lucian get pry out, let him push. We're going to almost all in for this mid play. And it didn't work for them, but even if a play doesn't work, it's still, when you're trying to judge what a team does, you have to look at what they were going for, not just the result.
Well, and even that top turret was so low, at some point you're going to lose it, and you don't want to give it up for free. But like you're saying, it wasn't really for free. It was like an opportunity cost.
I think you play it like poker. If if you run that play 10 times, if that play works 6 out of 10 times, you make that play every single time, because the amount that you get for those turrets in mid, the kills for losing the top tower is worth it.
Yeah.
You just have to be good to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a play coming up that I think works for Griffin. Maybe it's not here. But I think the other thing is, looking at the rest of their group going forward, I think that they're probably going to dominate the second round robin too. Oh, here we go. Maybe it wasn't his Griffin play I was remembering.
That was a pretty big pick by G2. So let's see how this one happens. Looks like G2's really good at syncing up their recalls. They come off base at the same time, and then it looks like Lehen's just overextends a bit. But I think it's really worth talking about how disciplined G2 is in their setups, because if that wasn't 4 people right there, Lehen's was probably fairly safe to do what he's doing. But when you have a team that recalls so fast, comes back on the map so fast, gets to the right place at the right time, then you can punish that kind of overextension.
It was split seconds too, because Talia was actually about 2 seconds away from being there. So just those hairs, I think, make a big difference in these matchups of top teams.
And then just one pickoff on a Nautilus leads to mid tower, and then G2 is able to get vision control top side and start pressuring top.
Ooh, Chovy's fine. He's fine. I think this was also probably G2's best game. They didn't have anyone having a happy game like they did in their next two, where Jankos and Mickey had one, as well as Wunder and Jankos. But like the fact that they're able to go even in those games where someone's kind of feeding is insane. Because any other like team, when you have a team like a teammate who's doing that, the game feels like so doomed. And then they're like even or ahead when they have teammates doing that. At the world stage level, which just shows how crazy they actually are.
Mental fortitude, though, to not tilt when your teammates are. When your top side is, what, 0-7-1, and you're still not tilted and winning the game?
Something that I really like about what G2 does is I think a lot of teams, if someone's having a bad time, a lot of teams will like throw resources toward trying to like plug the holes. It's like, you've got a sinking ship. It's like, okay, guys, like I'm behind top lane. We need to like bring our jungler top. We need to bring our mid laner top. We need to bring our bot laner top. Like we need to get me back ahead. When in reality, a lot of times it's best to just say, okay, this is a deficit for us. Let's try to play off an area where we might be able to get an advantage. And it seems like GT is really good at that. They're like, all right, man, you're running it down. Just have fun. Do your best, and we're gonna go carry over here. So,
I think it was a Jankos interview where he talked about how he thinks like their biggest strength is actually like their teamwork and how they all actually like each other. And like that helps so much with avoiding those moments where you're like, wow, I hate my top laner today.
Oh, definitely. It's really easy to trust your team too. It's like if Jankos knows he can go 0-5 on Kiana jungle and then say, yo, my team's got my back, doesn't matter. I'm just gonna keep going for these plays. Nobody's gonna flame me, no one's gonna hate me.
Days. Imagine if you could get away with that. 0-5 Olaf, still win the game.
I mean, it can happen. You just need trust with the team. And GT's got a lot of that.
Yeah, and then just like this kind of playmaking setup, I think they sweepered their way in there and did a really good job of making sure that like they're like how active they are looking for plays.
Yeah,
like,
so
not even on conversions, just like plays per minute that they try to make is so high.
Can we show Griffin's vision at this point? Because I know that when we watch the stream and we see spectator vision, it like you see where G2 is, but you have to keep in mind when you're Griffin at this point and you don't have vision on Leona, Kai'Sa, you don't have vision on Elise, you're terrified. Like they've got a decent amount of defensive vision now, but pretty much every time you see G2 camping in their jungle, it's pretty lights out for Griffin, so they all have to be really, really defensive.
And the only reason I think they felt safe, there's that good play I was thinking of.
That's just unlucky, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's both. It's like that's a good play by Tarzan lining that up. I don't think he meant to boop him into the blue pit, but the only reason they went into the bot river there was because they saw all of G2 on the top side. So like Griffin still plays, relatively well themselves. We're like, okay, now that we've seen them, we can step forward into the bot river and start setting up for this dragon that's coming. But I think I still like that you see them be so aggressive and willing to find those kinds of plays.
They have no choice actually to give this up.
Yeah, so you definitely have to give this up. There's nothing you can do about it. I do like how G2 at this point is just saying, all right, we can't get the dragon, but
what are they doing?
Griffin's going to have to commit members to take the dragon, and while they're doing that, we can still do something else, which is pushing mid lane,
getting blue,
getting vision topside, taking the blue, and then, they're going to have initiative on this next play because they put their wards down, they're going to recall to get more available wards, and then they'll see where Griffin goes from base at this point because they got that vision, and then they'll be faster and they can see where Griffin's going, so they'll probably get a better next play.
A lot of people talk about G2 skipping steps to make their plays, but I still think they almost never miss an important one, I guess I would say. Like getting vision before you reset, so that way when Griffin's going into this top side like they're doing right now, you see all of that so they don't get vision control of top side without having to spend all this time clearing those wards, which gives you time to get over there as well. Like they didn't just reset and skip the whole drop your wards before you backstep. They still hit all like the really important ones.
So what do you think is a step worth skipping? Because my gut tells me the warding is probably the one that you can skip to make a play. If you just shove the lane and go for the play, I'd say that makes sense.
I think a lot of the times the steps that they skip the most are the ones around pushing waves, like what happened in the top side one that you were talking about, where they lost that top turret to try and make the mid play. If you remember back at MSI, hold on, Chovy is dying, winning, dying. Bye, Chovy. The one at MSI where Caps just like sacked his wave with the pike to get the pike rolling, and he went top like 8 times in a row, whatever it was. Like that's them saying screw it to all the steps to getting mid priority before the roam.
Okay.
They're just roaming top because they want to get kills for the pike. And like I think those kinds of steps that they're more down to skip than like the really important ones where it'll come back to bite you in like the next minute.
Right. And you know, the thing we were talking about earlier where G2 kind of like did what some people would call over-rotating from top, where they give up that top turret. It's like the steps would be, okay, push one wave, get some vision, go back top. They skipped the go back top. They just said, nah, we're brute forcing this. And it didn't work, but that's still skipping a step. Another really good example I remember was from G2's game against C9, where they were sieging the tier 2 top, and C9 cleared the wave, but then they all grouped up because no one dives with no minions. But G2 just said, you're grouped up and we're a Vladimir, so we're just going to dive you anyway. So they just full-on dove a turret with no wave, and that's a really risky thing to do. That's skipping a step for sure. You know, usually the step is have minions under the turret before you dive it.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing can work.
It
If you have
sounds
the
like
opportunity.
the way they see it is look for the opportunity and then what needs to happen to find this opportunity, and then cut away the steps that are necessary to make that happen, is the way I'm thinking they're looking at the game.
I think, like I was saying, I think most of them all come down to minion waves, because for the longest period of time, people treated minion waves like they were the game. I think even Chowster said the game's about minion waves way back in season 2, and like
I remember that.
People are literally like,
game's changed a lot.
It's changed a lot, but I'm saying like people even in like season 5 and 6 were like, well, if you just pick all, like even 2016 MSI with range supports, it's like priority, getting minions pushing, doing this, and there was so much about, and the game's changed away from that. Like that was probably the optimal strategy then for sure, but like the game is not that way right now, and so G2 being willing to say, I don't really care about making sure I always have priority before I go for a play. I want the play.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it just comes down to concepts. It's you always hear where there's kind of like 3 understandings of something, where it's like, you know, the bottom level is not really knowing what's going on, the middle level is like you know what to do, and then the top level is knowing when you should deviate from, you know, the normal. So G2 is just, I think, really good at knowing when they can afford to like not do the normal play. When it's fine to sack waves, when it's fine to just commit for something if they know it's going to work.
Yeah. Can we get the items up again?
It's like artists. They have to learn how to draw realism before you can actually draw the kid stuff.
Right, and I think
I love
like the cartoons.
I guess like
Picasso.
I like Meteos' right, so just like skipping the step of following up.
Yeah, well,
where's the MR?
I was following up what you were saying.
Yeah.
So we do see a lot of MR. One reason I do think this game was not quite as explosive as maybe some of G2's other games is that when you're running champions like Elise and Leona, they're pick champions. You know, you want to pick off people, but when pretty much the entire enemy team can build Merc Treads plus more MR, it's just that much harder to get a pick. You know, without Merc Treads, a lot of the time an Elise stun will be a kill, but with Merc Treads, it's enough time to, you know, get out before that follow-up CC comes in.
It's a lot more than, well, I guess the Mercs matter a lot, but I feel like they would need a lot more MR itemization to really sink into taking advantage of the one-dimensional G2 damage comp.
Yeah.
Like maybe a Stair Axe, the Wits End, and the Hex Drinker on the Aurelia would be enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where you fell behind the enemy's power curve. Like some comps are like that, where they look 10 times worse from behind than ahead.
Is Aurelia building Spear of Shogun?
Yeah, dude, that's Spear
Yeah.
Aurelia.
I don't know about that.
I don't like it.
Not feeling it.
I don't think it's very good.
I like the Death Dance.
Someone
way
else
better
did it
from
too, I
Honey.
think.
Really?
But, yeah.
Why?
You don't need to necessarily use your Q perfectly as much. Like you don't need the stun or the alt procs to Q, because you'll get them up again to keep chasing easier. But and you get more stuns, of course, so you can also reset it more as well. But I don't know.
Yeah, we got a big fight coming though.
Home baby. Oh, this is the sword who's flanking who called by Papa Smith.
Popped ult already.
He did this so many times this game.
It's over.
Sword's hard chilling.
What? Dude, he makes it, and I bet ultimate's down when he just gets into the fight.
Yeah, he gets in there. There's my Sojin.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's off.
Well, I mean,
the idea.
that
how they
certainly
beat
looked
this
troll.
comp.
So
what?
In Sword's defense,
It's the right idea.
I will say that, you know, on Renekton, when you ulti, it starts building up your Fury, right? And when you have Shojin, you want to be able to like get those empowered spells off. So if you can ideally have 100 Fury before the fight, that's going to be really good.
Let's see if we can defend him, though, because I want to see his positioning and where he goes.
He's over the wall because they think they're going to go for perks, but then they go to the dragon. So, like, but he's also not going left to, like, they just don't do anything. They get pushed back like this, and now he's just on an island. That's not 100% his fault.
But the Renekton's not going to get onto the Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa can always ult away.
Yeah, but with the, I think they wanted the Aurelia to start onto the Kai'Sa, and then he cuts her off.
Yeah, it definitely looks like there was a lot of confusion with Griffin. And in these fights, I feel like usually if you break down a team fight like this, in any game, there'll be someone doing something a little bit questionable. And a lot of that just comes down to confusion, you know, especially when you're not only thinking about what is the enemy team doing, you have to think about, like, you know, what are your teammates trying to call for, that kind of stuff. So just being on the same page can be really hard. But definitely look troll.
Well, the thing that made it worse, too, is he did it a bunch of times over this game. I think we already passed the one where he did it on the Raptors, where like G2 was finishing taking a turret, and then he popped his ult on top of the Raptors to like go over the wall to contest it, but the turret's already dead. And I don't even think he had flash for that one. And then he does it again later in the base too. So like, whether that's the team being like, here we go, and he presses it, or him himself is like, here I go. It's hard, you know, you don't know, but it definitely looked troll.
And you're talking about communication. I saw this post that was saying that in Korean, because you can be shorter with your words, it's somehow more effective as a language to communicate League of Legends than English.
But the Europeans already showed that's not true. You just need to yell nice at the top of your lungs. And go!
Actually, I think every team does that.
Have you heard Ruler, that call from Ruler at Worlds, where he's like literally just screaming, like shrieking, high-pitched like Banshee wail.
What's he saying? Go, go, go.
No, he's just literally like, I don't want to emulate, like I'll blow the viewers' ears out, but like, it's hilarious. Oh, here's the ult by Sword. Just there he goes.
He has so much. He's going for 200 Fury on this one.
It's yeah, you can overcap the Fury, and it's just extra awkward with Spirososian kind of double dipping and like I want to be on top of the team with my ult.
Yeah, so it's pretty awkward. He's definitely ulting too early. It seems like he's overvaluing the like Fury generation before the fight.
Yeah.
And just kind of, it makes it so obvious. The other team can see you sitting there with your ult going and say, hey guys, they might want to engage here.
Yeah, and part of that's just like, well, they can't get a flank at this point because G2's just choking them out, but.
Yeah, definitely at this point, it seems pretty one for G2.
There's no wave clear, right? You're not stopping anything on the side on Griffin. If you fall behind, you're done.
So looking ahead, Griffin or C9 getting out? Because I think we're all going to agree G2 number one, right?
I think Griffin.
It's hard to say. I think based on what we saw so far, I would say Griffin. But at the same time, we haven't seen C9 just pick normal stuff, right? Like it's a meme at this point saying like, you know, stop putting Sneaky on mages. But at the same time, like it's kind of true. You know, Sneaky is really good at AD carries. It's something he's played for years. I don't see why we're putting him on Cassio.
And Blabber. I mean, I think Blabber is really great. It's probably the most hotly contested non-LCS player that should be in this upcoming split. But Cloud9 has been playing Svenskeren all year long, mostly, which I think people will have questions.
And it's not so much like Blabber's an issue. And I know we have different opinions on this a little bit. It's more like, from my perspective, Blabber's fine, but Sven was your MVP.
Exactly.
And I think especially with these games being a little bit slower, there were games in the regular season where Blabber got like a 5 or 6K gold lead, and then they lost those because they weren't as clean about closing out. And that's what they've been struggling with the most, is they get these leads and then lose them. Now, I still think they would have got them with Sven, but that's just a different, like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a huge Blabber fan.
I know, yeah, you're like...
I know Blabber, like, I think Blabber's really good. At the same time, though, like, do you think Sven would be able to... Would his mid to late game shot calling or whatever his role in the team is be enough to counteract the way C9's been drafting?
So it's not going to help with the draft and some of these things, but the thing that went wrong in the Griffin game for C9, where they were pushed too far up before they had bot lane pushing for Licorice, and the whole team needed to be further back instead of standing on that cannon wave. Ooh. That's something where this game.
Yeah, but it's still cool looking people get blown up.
You want to talk about this? You want
No, I want you to keep going.
Okay, you're just making noises in the back. I think that was one where if you had Svenskeren, who's more knowledgeable about mid to late game decision making, especially probably around side lanes and 4-1ing, he probably would have been like, "Hey guys, back off this wave." I would hope that that's a situation where more veteran experience would have saved them, because he got a lot of the times Zazil had to use his Devours on Blabber.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, but at the same time, I think that's a situation where it's hard to make the right call because one reason why you don't see a lot of split push comps is because they're very hard to execute perfectly. And I wouldn't even just say hard. A lot of it just comes down to, like, is the other team punishing you correctly? Because think about it like this, you want Fiora to be able to split deep, right? And so to do that, you kind of need your team to be able to push up mid as far as they can so that you can punish the enemy team if they try to send their entire team on Fiora. Because if you're just chilling under your own like inhibitor turret mid for their push, Fiora can't go super deep. She'll have no vision. She'll never know when people are coming for her. So you need to be as far up mid as you can so that you can give her vision. You can give her possible protection matching their numbers or whatnot. But at the same time, when you're that far away from your own turrets, you can get engaged on. And when you're against Garen Yuumi, you can't really avoid that engage. Garen's running at you at like 600 move speed. Yuumi ult takes up your entire screen. Elise has no defensive mobility whatsoever, unless you can like repel to something behind you, but that's not reliable. So to me, it looked very hard for C9 to actually have a good play because you saw right before that throw, Griffin, they sent everyone on Fiora and then C9 got Baron. But once Baron's gone, it's like, what's your next step? It's not like you can just take an inhibitor. It's so much farther up.
The Garen, what is it? With W, it's 60% tenacity. Yep. If you have the tenacity bloodline as well, you can hit maybe with Merc Treads like 80% if you activate it.
Multiplicative stacking is weird. I'm not going to do the math on it.
If it at least hits you 60% and Merc's is 25 and you can get 30 from the utility tree, you can seriously be untouchable from crowd control.
Yeah, you can't kill Garen for that reason alone, as well as the healing and stuff. So to finish it out,
the game is done.
Game's done. Griffin, that was probably one of their better games. The one against C9, HKA, also you could say. G2, obviously fantastic. So are we unanimous on Griffin getting out second, or are you still holding out hope for C9 getting it together?
I'm gonna vote C9. I mean,
I picked C9 at the beginning.
I'm biased for sure.
Yes.
Based on what I've seen so far, it doesn't make sense. But I think just play standard team comps. It's the stuff that works. There's a reason something's the meta, and it's not because it's bad. Like picking 80 carries, that's your DPS. That's your objective killing, your tank killing. Picking tanks, that's what lets you start fights, what lets their bruisers not just run over your entire team, and I think that the teams that have been sticking to that formula are doing pretty well. I think there are exceptions where you can go away from it, but don't just stop doing the meta for fun, not just because you saw someone else doing it. I think you really need to understand why it works. And if you try it without understanding that, then you're just going to end up in really uncomfortable situations.
All right, I'm sticking with you because I said it.
Really? You're going C9?
I said it before the game started. I'm just going to stick with it. I'm going with C9 getting out of that group still.
Wow.
Griffin's going to boom. The pressure, the coach situation, it's going to keep getting worse.
I think Griffin's going to boom for sure. Even in their games, it still looks like
the pressure gets higher
shaky.
too. Yeah. They're chokers, remember?
It's going to be a tiebreaker.
It's going to be a tiebreaker.
Stomp them.
There's going to be spaghetti everywhere.
Week 2. We have literally never done well in week 2, so it's going to get worse.
You did well in week 2 last year.
Right? Like the race gets harder from here.
All right, you're saying Griffin.
No. We only do bad week 2 if we do well week 1. But if we do bad week 1, then it can't get worse.
All right. Anyways, that's going to do it for our VOD review of Griffin versus G2, as well as a bit of a discussion around Group A. Let us know what you guys thought, either in the comments below, or you can tweet at me at @MarkZ. I'll make sure I relay feedback.
Don't tweet at me.
Don't Meteos LOL.
No, don't look at their Twitters. They're garbage. Anyways, that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for our other coverage of the games.